Hello and welcome once again to the show. This is Do All the Things. At some point in human history, Marshall released a cab, 412 in size, but only 212 in loading. And I want to see if this configuration is going to work for me because I have certain situations that I have to deal with. So today, I'm going to convert my 1964 12 into 212 and see if it'll float my boat. Stay tuned and find out. So if you've been following the comedy, you know that I've done a couple videos where I tested out various Eminence drivers that I have. The Swamp Things, the Governors, and the Wizards. Problem is I only have two of them. And in borrowing a 212 cab from a buddy of mine, I found that I much prefer the sound of them alone. I don't find that any of those drivers really mix match together in ways that satiate my needs. I would rather just run my Governors. I would rather just run my Wizards. I'd rather not run my Swamp Things. Though they're handy here in the shop under the bench. So what are my choices? Either I invest in more speakers, more of the same to make a 412, or I buy 212 cabinets. Either way, the solution is spends more money. I already have enough cabinets. I don't want to have to buy more cabinets if I don't have to. And buying more speakers, well, that's something everybody loves to have an excuse to do, but at the end of the day, I'd rather try more different flavors than buy more of the same speakers. In practice, a 212 with Governors perfectly suits my needs, just noodling array in my bedroom there. Well, it's not a bedroom, but you know what I mean. Now, I've tried doing conversions like this in the past using passive radiators. As an example, here's an old Eminence square back that came stock in my trainer cabinet, and it's blown. I removed the magnet off of it so that it would be lighter. I still have the magnets. I could recone two of these if I wanted to. The cone is in perfectly good condition, so I put this in to fill the other two empty positions, but passive radiators just don't work in practice. They've been used in home audio, but I think they're more of a gimmick there than anything because they just don't make sense. The idea is the air pressure, when maybe, your main speakers that are active are pushing out, that's going to cause the air pressure to suck in the passive radiator and in sense create an out of phase signal. You just end up with this negative resonance and it just doesn't sound good. I tried it, it just doesn't sound good. The only real way to do this is to completely block up those holes altogether. So I fabricated these. I've spared you the woodworking, but we got here a couple what were scrap pieces of plywood. It's nice 3/4 inch. I think it was used on the floors of building my sheds back when you could afford this stuff. And I hit one side with paint after cutting and sanding them. This is actually barbecue paint that I used. It's just what I had on hand. And well, hell, it means that this particular filler board is going to be able to handle those fire solos now, isn't it? So knowing that I didn't actually need circles in there because I measured first, of course, I cut these roughly to the correct size of the speakers, just a square variation of the speaker. And now pretty much all that's left to do is pop some holes into it so that I can mount it up and then mount it up. So looking at the cabinet, we have our holes in the corner positions. And then these wood boards I made should fit right in there. Yeah, I don't see why not. So let's get fabricating on these. Oh, this little ridge here isn't going to make for a nice mount point. Maybe I should have checked my corners better. Now maybe we should kick this old school and actually measure. What do we got here for width? It's 12 3/8. So that'd be 6 3/16. That should be center right there. I don't know that my edges are actually square, so this might not be the best way to do this. I think I'm just gonna eyeball it. Let's just plop this pupper down on here. We'll kind of square it this way, so I'll pop this down. Once I determine where my center's gonna be, I will rotate the speaker. There we go. So that looks good right about there. All right, consultant. Now the T-nuts in this cab use 1032 screws, which is the hardest part of this build because you can't just walk into a hardware store anymore and say, oh, I'd like some screws, please. I have to call ahead and wait a day. Looks like I'm using a 1564 drill bit. All right, bro, let's give her. Either this bit is dull or this wood is hard. Yeah, the bit's dull. It's getting hot. All right, let's just clean it up a bit here, bud. So we want something resembling a seal on this now. I just want air to leak easily past the edges. So I'm hoping I have enough weather stripping in stock here. Doesn't necessarily have to go right to the edge. Except we want to kind of get the weather stripping butted up nicely against each other on these edges. That'll do. Oh boy, am I gonna have enough to do 2 of these? Good luck getting more, right? Ooh, it sticks pretty good. All right, this should mount up now. Let's see if we can pack it in there. Look at the Marshall diagram. It's going to be bottom over here. Now the screws are important because I had to get longer ones. The stock ones weren't going to work. Your screw length is important when you have a T-nut setup because if the screws go too long, they're going to poke through the grill cloth, right? And the stock screws are just long enough to bolt down a speaker onto there without it poking through the grill cloth. Now these wood boards are considerably thicker than the stock speakers, so I had to get longer screws. These are 1032 by 1.5, and that should hit that T-nut and match up. Just to enhance our general sealing procedure, I have these rubber sealing washers, I believe they call them. And I have these for no other reason than I bought them for another project and didn't end up using them. So we'll use those to hold the board in. We're gonna need some form of washer because these will just bite right through the board. Now let's see if we can't get them installed. That one bit. That one bit. Well then, that was so nice. Let's do it twice then. Oh, that one's chowdered. Okay, this bit, I need some new bits, man. Fresh bit. Oh, chewed. Oh, you see this chowder here? That's the importance of fresh bits, bud. Now, do we have enough? I think we have just enough weather stripping. Oh, we fell a little bit short here. Oh, but I had just enough. Oh. Clearly, if I want to do this conversion to other cabs, I'm going to need to invest in more weather stripping. I think I have enough scrap plywood to do another cab. All right, let's go chuck her in there, bud. And this one's got to go up here. Ah, she's all done. How's she look? Oh yeah, you can barely tell. The blackout's real nice. Now I need to go acquire a familiar set of drivers to load in there. And that would be Eminence Governors. Now the Governors don't have the most low end. I'm hoping the resonance of an oversized cab will enhance that. But then I'm also worried that having that much space is gonna get woofy, or it's not gonna be tight. Also, that X pattern or that cross pattern means the speakers aren't gonna phase couple together very well. So, you almost might want to try them straight up and down or right across, you know? There's different ways we can try this that'll yield different results. But I'm going to stick with this for now, and maybe I'll screw around on my spare time, on my own time, figuring out which configuration I like better. Now remember, when bolting from behind, don't over torque, you can cause warpage in the basket. All right, the speakers are mounted. Now I have to hook this all up. Now the funny thing is, my backboard actually has impedance switching on it. So for one, I have to remember how this is wired, and for two, I have to figure out how to make this, yeah. Ah, well, this is convenient. The way the stock wiring in a cabinet like this works, you have two 8-ohm sets. And if you run them in parallel, you have a 4-ohm configuration. So parallel, switching it down to the 4-ohm setting, will basically put these two leads here right in parallel with each other. We could just go ahead and hook those each up to their own respective speaker, and it's just gonna work, assuming we don't flick this switch. We have to leave it in the 4-ohm setting. Stick it to the 16-ohm setting, it's gonna turn off one of the speakers. Oh, we would have a 112 cab in a 412 size. Well, that'll be a bonus. Now, as standard procedure, before we batten up these hatches, we got to do a little test to make sure that everything's in phase. Little 9-volt battery. Where's my flashlight, though? Yeah, we're good. If I flick the switch, yeah, it's only a 112. Interesting. I don't know what new Marshall cabs are like, but this one from the 80s, it's better quality than the crate cab. Like, those screws are still biting nice. So I guess now we find out what this thing sounds like. There's no point in miking it because you're not going to hear the cab if I mic it. My room mic might represent that better, actually. I gotta remember to set the amp to 8 ohms, right? Let's plug in the moment of truth. Ah, so far I don't hate it. Well, the good news, it's not woofy. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I feel like it has less bass than the 212 cab, 212 loaded, and less than 412, 412 loaded. But then, the Marshall isn't the bassiest amp. Maybe I should try a different head. 112 mode neuters it. It does have a warm tone to it though, that's good. Turn the volume down, simulating bedroom volumes that I like to play at. All right, now let's crank it up. I'm gonna turn down my mic. Remind me to turn it back up after. Let's bring it up even more! My eyes are down here, bud. Conclusion. Well, at high volumes, it didn't loosen up too much. It stayed tight, but there wasn't as much. There wasn't as much low end. Clearly, you're gonna get more low end with more speakers, and I think science might have something to say about that. I think what's going on here is because you have an oversized cab, there's more air to pressurize. So it kind of softens the blow. I'm not getting exaggerated low end like I expected. In fact, it's pretty balanced, maybe a bit too balanced. Maybe I wanna try a bassier head. But so far, this is working out rather well. I think I'm gonna be happy with this, but I almost feel like if I was gonna use it with the Marshall, I might want a bassier speaker. The Wizard has more bass, but I didn't like it with the Marshall. The Swamp Things worked well with the Marshall, and they're definitely bassier, but the Marshall's the only head that I like them with. Let's go and grab something a little bit more atypical and modern. Jet City, aka Soldano SLO. Now, this isn't just any Jet City head. Hey, my eyes are up here, bud. Now, this isn't just any Jet City head, it's my modified one, and it is liable to have more thump. Getting a little carried away there. I'm turning it back down to bedroom volumes, because that's when you sometimes feel the most exaggerated bass. You know what? That's gonna do. That's gonna do quite nicely. Again, it maybe doesn't have as much low end whomp, but it's good. It's in a sweet spot across the spectrum. Turn it up a bit, maybe it gets a bit thin. But that amp can compensate from it. It has depth and obviously a more potent bass, so it actually works rather well. I think I'm gonna like this. I think I'm gonna leave it like this for a little while. Now the debate is, do I wanna try doing this again to my crate so I can get those wizards load into somewhere? The Swamp Things, they have a cabinet. I have an old crate 212 combo that I converted to an open back cab. It lives under my workbench for testing and evaluation. It's a good thing about the Swamp Things is at 150 watts each, whatever I'm working here on the bench, I can throw it at that cab and not worry about damaging the speakers. And they mic decently well, so I'm not gonna screw with those. But the Wizards and the Governors are my two favorite actual play-in speakers, and I wanna get them both in cabs, both set up, and it looks like I'm gonna be able to do that now. So, stay tuned. Maybe I might follow up something to do with this, or maybe this is all you're gonna hear of this. But either way, if you got some scrap plywood and some longer bolts, give it a try, because I think this is going to satiate a need that I have quite nicely, which means I might be able to cancel that order for a 212 Origin cab from Long McQuaid that's been taken forever, and I think I'm giving up on it. That and maybe I want another guitar instead.